Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much for joining me here today. This is your one-stop shop for cryptocurrency analysis, among many other things. Now we're taking a look here today at ONT, which is Ontology. I get a lot of requests for this one, surprisingly, because it kind of pops up out of nowhere. But it did some really impressive stuff here today, and we'll take a look at that. And just know this is, essentially just a one-stop shop for cryptocurrency analysis, among many other things. But we really just look at the technicals. There's no fundamentals here. Feel free to include the fundamentals if you have insight on that in the comments below. Now, moving forward, I'm not a financial advisor. This is for educational purposes only. You should do your own research and take ownership of your trades. But my goal here is to help you become a better trader to trade for a lifetime, not just for one day. So if you stick around, I promise you learn a thing or two. And if you have a chance to obviously reference my Telegram community, check that out too. We got a good group of folks, and also a Patreon account as well, where I share my trades and I utilize everything you're going to learn here today in my signal group, and I send those signals to my Patreon members as well as share my indicators too. So we'll go ahead and look at that at a later date. Feel free to reference that in your own time. But for now, let's just go ahead and get right to it. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a look at ONT. And just before we do, we always look at Bitcoin, Ethereum first. So we get a baseline of the market so we know exactly what's going on. That we can make an informed decision, right? Because how can you make a decision if you don't know all the angles? So let's take a look at that here first. All right, so Bitcoin. Let's go ahead and take a peek at the 4-hour chart, because this is my favorite chart, honestly, of all time. If I had one chart to live with, it'd be the 4-hour chart, just because it works so well for swing trading. And this is basically the same chart that all the industry leaders are using too. They use the 1 day and the 4-hour primarily, and the moving averages work the most effective here, right? So that's what we're going to look at here, of course. But furthermore, more important, this is a TradingView desktop application. So if you want to follow along, I have the 50 and the 200-day simple moving averages enabled. That is this purple line here is a 200, and the 50 is the orange line as well. All right, so that's kind of what we're looking at here for Bitcoin. So zooming on in, let's go ahead and take a quick peek. First of all, we got a major support level at 30,000, major resistance at 40,500. This has been tested quite a few times. It keeps knocking on that door, right? Again, the more often you knock on a door, the more likely it is to open, whether or not somebody opens it for you or you just kick the damn thing in, right? That's kind of what's happening right now. This major resistance is getting tested, and it's likely to break upwards versus downwards, not only because of the fact that we have some significant momentum, but more importantly, any type of ascending triangle or wedge pattern, whatever you want to call it, it's moving in an upward fashion here, and it will break out upwards soon. Again, that's just speculation, of course, but statistically speaking, these break up instead of down more frequent than not. And a lot of times too, you'll see a breakdown first and then it just returns and just shoots right past. So there's a good chance that could happen here. I'm speculating we're going to see something along this lines and then come on check on up there. So it's going to look a lot like a check mark. Anyways, that's kind of where we're at there. We got a major support now at 37,000. That was tested a few times recently and it bounced off. Furthermore, we also have what is a lot of people refer to as a golden cross that occurred on the 4-hour chart, roughly July 27th at 9 a.m. So that happened recently. Coincidentally, the price jacked up right there, and we saw a significant increase from maybe almost about 7% in about a 12-hour period right after that happened. Again, coincidence? Yeah, you could say so. I kind of don't love putting a lot of weight into those things, but there is still something that pushes the price. And this is all good for the altcoins, right? So this might be why we're seeing ONT doing so well. Taking a look here, we're looking at the 4-hour chart on Ethereum, and Ethereum is doing quite well right now. It's finally breaking through, at least trying to break through 2,400. There's a resistance at 2,400. We also had a similar scenario here with the golden cross, but more importantly, the price action is above both 50 and the 200. Support level is 1725 is a rough approximate, and of course we do have a major resistance at 2,900 as well. So keep that in mind. We break through here, just say Bitcoin breaks 40,500 and stays above on the 4-hour chart, or even just say the 1-day chart, we get a candle to close above, we should be open season upwards of 2,900 for Ethereum. Again, in theory, right? If Bitcoin has to go up to 46,000, 50,000, but those things are likely to happen. And it looks like Ethereum is kind of trying to break free from this resistance level. So it's a good sign. All right, so looking at ONT, we'll go ahead and start with a 1-day chart first and then work our way down. Now, ONT is interesting because look at how high it got previously. So its all-time high is $2.96, and it's presently at about 84 cents right now. Now, looking at the time frames, we want to look at Bitcoin when it sold off first, okay? Because Bitcoin sold off on the 17th of April. You can usually see it right away with this series of red candles here. But looking here, it's the 17th. This is the first major Bitcoin sell-off. It came all the way down, ramped all the way back up. So it actually closed the day in green on the 18th. So it wasn't impacted that much there the first day, but the second time, the second sell-off came around the 20th or 22nd, pushed the price down further. Then, of course, we saw this ramp back up. This is a pretty common upwards progression. When Bitcoin was going sideways, most of the altcoins were ramping up. At that point, we kind of thought that altcoin season was in full effect. Altcoins are going crazy. Everyone's investing, pulling money out of Bitcoin and putting it right back into the altcoins. But unfortunately, Elon came around on the 12th here, and then of course China candle 18th and 19th destroyed pretty much every momentum that any coins had at that time. So that being said, it kind of worked its way down to a channel. But the beautiful thing right now, and this is probably why the price jumped up so hard, is we got the one-day candle yesterday to close above the 50-day moving average, right? So we got that and now ramped up. Today so far, we've seen, what is that? It's roughly about 15, I would say somewhere between 15 to 20% increase in just one day. So that's pretty strong for Ontology. RSI is still under 70. It's fantastic, more room for growth. We also had a convergence at approximately the 21st, which we see that convergence happen a lot on the MACD based on the simple fact that that is when Bitcoin was under 30,000. Okay, so how can it not bounce back when everything is so freaking low for so long, right? And what's interesting too is that is a support level as well. So 57 cents is a major support for ONT. All right, I'll just go ahead and mark that there. All right, moving on to the 4-hour chart. Let's take a look here. First of all, we're up above both moving averages. And look at this, coincidence? We've got a golden cross just hitting its full inception right now at this exact same time. So you tell me if that's a coincidence or not. Furthermore, we've also got what? RSI is up over 70. Fantastic. It's actually at about 84. So it's overextended. We're going to see a retracement, which it's already been started. Most retracements occur about 50 to 60% of the way. So if you're kind of new to the channel or new to trading in general, when you see a price action this high, this fast in a 4-hour time frame or less, then it's going to come back down probably about halfway. So we should see a support start forming somewhere in the range of about 80 cents. Just again, just throwing out a number, but that's generally how it works. Looking at the MACD, let's see how we got here. We got a nice convergence on the 29th, which was today at 5 a.m. Pacific. So we'll go ahead and mark that guy there. Because I like to mark that to kind of show how that transcribes over to the 1-hour chart, because I like to look at the Ishimoku cloud, kind of see where we're at with that, with the price being above. So here we are. We got the 4-hour chart. Let's go ahead and switch on over to the 1-hour. First thing you do is you disable your SMA, because SMAs are only good in the 4-hour or higher. That's my personal opinion. I think they work really well on larger time frames because it's a simple moving average. Exponential moving averages work different. They work on smaller time frames. But right now with the 1-hour, it's kind of the in-between. So I've noticed that the TD sequential and the Ishimoku cloud are the two most effective time or indicators on this time frame. All right, so let's go and turn on the Ishimoku cloud. Take a look here. So as we can see on the Ishimoku cloud, we had a break above the cloud back here on the 27th. So that hypothetically would have been a good place to take entry. Now keep in mind too, right here at this point, the 4-hour chart gave us a convergence. So this is also a great entry point because it's right as soon as it started breaking above this consolidation channel, right? So both would have been a good consideration. You just would have been a little premature over here, but it's not that premature when you think about it because it stayed above the cloud the entire time. Now keep in mind the cloud can be a little bit less reliable when we've got like a lot of sideways action, so just keep that in mind. But at this point in time, it definitely worked out favorably. Let's take a look at the TD sequential and see where we're at here. So TD sequential is basically telling us that we have what? We have potential for the price to continue to increase for the next 4 hours. I personally don't think that's going to happen based on how fast it increased. Unless Bitcoin breaks 40,500, we should expect the price to retrace back down to roughly 80 cents. If it does retrace to 80 cents, that's all well and good because it will likely bounce and continue upwards unless Bitcoin sells off down to 30,000 and starts making a nosedive, complete nosedive. But for right now, we do still have potential of the price increasing further, but I don't foresee that happening. Again, really just depends on the overall momentum. If nothing else, we're going to probably see some sideways action and then an increase, but I do not foresee the price jumping up anytime soon. It'll probably need to calm down first. And what I mean by that is any good bull run that you're going to see has a staircase pattern. It increases sharply, sure, may retrace a little bit, but it'll go sideways and then up again, sideways and up again. This just going straight up, if it doesn't go sideways, it's going to crash. That's just the general kind of concept of how things work. Now, there are rare occasions where there's some really strong fundamentals that drive the price up consistently. We see that time and time again. Now, I don't know the fundamentals here, of course. This is a technical analysis only, but based on what I see here, I think it's going to go sideways, probably a little bit of time, continue upwards, and or come down, bounce, and come up, right? We're going to see one of those two things happen. Looking at the 15-minute chart, let's go ahead and take a quick peek at the EMA and VWAP notification I have built in. Now, keep in mind, this finding an entry point right now when the price ramped up shortly after the VWAP had reset, it can be difficult, but basically what we're looking at here is the fact that the price is over VWAP and over EMA. Okay, now I don't prefer to try to take entry when I see a price jump up like this, but again, it really just depends on a lot of other factors. What we've seen so far is that ONT is extremely oversold, right? Or it was oversold previously. Now it's a little bit more on the overbought side. However, it's been so low for so long that it's well below its average true range, right? And I forgot to identify that. Let's take a quick look at this here. ONT's average true range before the Bitcoin sell-off was somewhere between, right where it's at right now, 87 cents. In fact, let's mark that too. We've got a major support and resistance level right at about 87 cents from before. Furthermore, we've also got an average true range somewhere upwards, I would say about $2. So just kind of keep an average. Let's go with that, $2. Now I am picking numbers out of a hat here. Keep that in mind. These are just generalities. But when you look at the one-day chart and you look at how well it's done prior to the Bitcoin sell-off, that gives us an idea of what its potential should be when the price ramps back up. Because bear in mind, up until the sell-off on April 17th, Bitcoin was somewhere in the range of 50 to 60,000. We're barely breaching up 40,000, and everything's been retraced for so long. So is it going to come back up to $2 and whatever the heck that was, $2.95? I don't think so. I don't foresee ONT doing that. However, it does have potential to come back up in the range of 87 cents, upwards of $2 even, right? So again, I know that's a wide range, but that's just generally what potential it has. Once it breaks 87 cents, which appears to be a potential resistance level, then we could see it continue to break. So again, if Bitcoin surpasses 40,500, ONT will follow suit. But back to the 15-minute chart, just kind of quickly identify something for you. The best time to take entry on the 15-minute chart, again, after looking at all the indicators we looked at so far, and know that ONT has more potential to increase. The RSI on the one-day chart is still fairly low, all things considered. We still have more room for growth. You want to look for these little yellow up arrows. Now, these are built into my indicator that I share with my community for my Patreon account. But bottom line, what I'm trying to get at here is when you look at these numbers, anytime you see the actual EMA and VWAP line, the price above EMA and VWAP, that's a consideration for an entry. Now, you don't just jump in willy-nilly when you see a red bar and try to find the bottom. It doesn't work that way. What you do is you wait for 2 consecutive green bars, give you just 30 minutes of confirmation, knowing that price is heading in the right direction. So it increases your odds. It's not foolproof by any means, but it certainly helps increase your probability of success. Because again, it's going sideways, doing a lot of sideways action here, and it's really hard to find the exact entry point when you got this really massive large bar, of course. But say that hadn't happened, you still would have netted yourself if you entered your position right here. You would have got somewhere in the range of 5 to 7%. Obviously, you got in there and you continued to hold on until just now, you would have had a really strong return. Again, these are all things that you need to kind of factor in. That's why we look at the one-day chart. We look at Bitcoin first. We need to understand where the price is at on the cloud. There's a lot of different things that are essentially factoring in here. So it's not just one indication to rule them all. That's why it's important to look at everything holistically so we can make an informed decision. And these are things that I look at in my Signal group. So feel free to reference that when you get a chance. We're actually looking at, I'm going to introduce swing trades too here soon. Excited for that. But for right now, I've got a pretty good community so far. It's growing quite rapidly. In addition to the fact that we actually have about 75 to 80% success rate. And it's just using these things here that I look at and make sure that I share my trades with my community. So that's kind of the bottom line there. But with ONT, again, my prediction is that if it can surpass 87 cents and break above and stay above on the 4-hour chart and keep that as a support level instead of a resistance, then we're going to see it continue on upwards, but it'll probably continue to go sideways for some time unless Bitcoin breaks out right away. And I think Bitcoin will break out in the next 24 to 48 hours. I don't think it's going to happen right now, but it'll probably be somewhere in the middle of the night. It tends to happen a lot. And, you know, those whales wake up over in the UK. We see that happen quite frequently. Either way, that's kind of what we're looking at here so far with ONT. So hopefully you found benefit. If you do, like and subscribe if you haven't already. And of course, reference my Telegram community. Check that out too. We got a good group of folks there. You can learn a lot, just absorb, be a fly on the wall, whatever you'd like. But, you know, feel free to message me too, and I'll be more than happy to try to communicate with you. Thanks again for your time. You have a great rest of your day. We'll see you in the next one.